Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast. Welcome to the Key Pass Collective. Your exclusive source for the information, analysis, and advice you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. Come on in. We've been expecting you.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome in to the Key Pass Collective. Again, why can't it ever just work?
Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast.
Holy hell. Okay, welcome into the Key Pass Collective. What's going on? My name is Joe Williams. I will be your host here for this particular episode. We're back. We're doing more positional previews, and it's going to be a marathon tonight. So for anybody who is joining us live, welcome. Go ahead and get those comments in the chat. Say hey to us. Give us any questions that you guys have. For anyone who's joining us later on the podcast, whether it be on Spotify or your preferred podcast provider, this is going to be broken up into two separate episodes. We're going to tackle mids first, and then we're going to tackle forwards second. So just to give people an idea of what to expect today, that is kind of how we are going to attack the two remaining positional previews, and we're not going to really preview goalkeepers. So I hope that's okay with everybody else. All right. Reminder, what is the Key Pass Collective? Welcome in if it's your first time. Key Pass Collective is basically the audio companion to the Draft Society website. What is the Draft Society? That's going to be your go-to spot for the draft game, literally just to dominate your league. We've got everything you possibly could need. So head over to the Draft Society. And most importantly, right now, what we have at the Draft Society is going to be the draft kit. The draft kit, of course, has been out since, I don't know, over a month. It's got team previews. It's got rankings that were literally just updated today. It has a live draft aid, which can actually literally walk you through your draft and give you upside picks, give you picks that are going to have the highest WAR, give you recommendations for who you might want to pick next by every single position. We've got team previews that are so in depth it's mind-boggling. Transfer analysis for every single transfer into the league. We just released the third one of those, and we're already kind of taking notes for the next one that's going to go out. So yeah, check it out, Draft Kit. We're really proud of it, and it is live, and it's there to help you win your draft. If you want, you can subscribe for the entire season with the Ultimate Pass for $70. That's going to give you, most importantly, our fantasy toolkit, which will in season give you week in and week out recommendations for who to pick up off the waiver wire, bespoke advice for your particular league based on your Fantrax ID. So that is huge. Check that out if you're willing. Otherwise, the draft kit itself is $15, goes to an independent fantasy football site. And we do appreciate the support and everybody who's already supported us. Literally, you guys are the reason we do this. So thank you so much. And quick shout out, there's a ton of free stuff on there too. So top 75 consensus rankings are completely free. We have some general strategy articles in terms of drafting. We have how to set up your leagues, Draft 101, what is the draft game? And then in season, there's also several free weekly articles that we put out. So just to shout out, just do head over to the Draft Society, even if you're not interested in paying anything or you can't pay anything, totally fine. We would just love for you to check out the stuff that we've taken a lot of time to prepare, and hope that it helps. Legitimately, hope that it helps everyone in their draft prep and week in and week out during the season. Okay, so as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking midfielder previews. Let's first go ahead and bring in the gang. We have the two faces that you know and love. Unfortunately, Gavin cannot join us tonight, but that's okay. We've got some stellar gentlemen here. Totti, what are you sipping on there? I know that Magnus, if he's listening, he's gonna be wondering. Is that a Singha?
It is.
Oh, nice.
I found it at Aldi, and it brought me back to my holiday in Thailand. So good memories.
Anything to relive holiday memories, right? Yeah,
Exactly. And
absolutely.
beer
Right.
mostly.
Right, and just beer, also just beer. Ryan, a new name, a new background. Not a very inviting one.
Sorry, man. I didn't know that you were judging me on my backgrounds. Yeah, this is my office, so it's not supposed to be luxurious. It's supposed to be where I come in and get things done.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm drinking a Coke Zero, by the way, full of carcinogens.
Full of carcinogens.
But
sometimes
I need the caffeine.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you need a good carcinogen. All right, cool. Well, guys, like I said, it's gonna be a bit of Oh, nice. Gavin's in the chat. Okay, cool. Hey, Gavin, how's it going? Hello to everybody. Feel free to say hey if you guys are joining us on YouTube. What's up, Adam, Tom? How are you guys doing? Hopefully we get some questions in there we can ask, and feel free to contribute as we're talking about things. We'll flash stuff up on the screen. Yeah, so that's the long and short of it. Like I said, going to be a marathon, guys. So let's go ahead and get stuck in. All right. So like I said, midfielder preview. We're going to be talking rankings discussion. Again, we just updated those today. So we've got a lot to talk about there. Then some late round gems that we are all sort of like looking at, maybe keeping close to the chest. We're not going to tell you all of our sleepers, but we might tell you one. And then, of course, any questions that you might have in chat, hit us with them. We'll try to see if we can fit them in. All right. So first things first, guys, this is not going to surprise anybody. I've sort of sorted this by, if you want to say tiers or let's say points in the draft more. But obviously first round, within the first usually 5 picks, we're seeing these 3 players go. It's, of course, for those who don't have the benefit of seeing this on the screen, for audio listeners, I'll try to dictate as much as I can for you. We're looking at Bruno Fernandes. He's our consensus rank number 1. Kevin De Bruyne 4. Bukayo Saka 5. Okay, so I don't know if there's a ton to talk about around these guys. We talked about some De Bruyne kind of talking points at the beginning of the summer. Not a whole lot has changed there, except for the fact that his injury maybe is a little better than expected. But other than that, or that included, how do you guys want to tackle these? What do you want to? Where do you want to start?
I'll start in chronological order, I suppose. The case for Bruno is basically that he never misses a game. I don't think he's missed one, missed a start or got an injury since he's come over to Manchester United. So, I mean, you can't put a price on availability. Also, I think he was the top scorer post-World Cup. You add in a decent striker. I'm assuming this Great Dane is decent, given how much money they paid for him. And that's a recipe for, in my opinion, the top player in the game. So, of course, he's the top mid. KDB, one of these seasons, his age is going to catch up to him. The fact that he's going into the season with an injury concerned a lot of us. Obvious Man City rotation issues. So I personally have Saka just above him. He's bulked up over the summer. I think Arsenal is going to get even better. He's nailed on as you can be. I think he'll score more goals. He's on right-sided corners. He's on pens. Yeah, he's got a good case to be made. So, yeah, my order there is Bruno, Saka, KDB.
Yeah, that's mine too. For those wondering, if you can see on the screen the initials there, that's the ranker. That's the person doing the ranking. So this is kind of sorted in the columns by each analyst. So you've got Draft Genie, you've got Draft Lad, you've got Gavin Wright, and then JW is me, RB is Ryan, RP is Robbie, and then TA is Totti. So yeah, so just so people can kind of process what they're seeing. All right, Totti, let's see. So it looks like for you're the only one of us who has KDB above Saka.
Yeah. obviously factoring in the fact that he's probably going to start less than 30 games this season. I just honestly hope it doesn't happen, but I just think that this, as much as we say it about some players, but this might be the season when Saka's unhumanly number of games played so far in his young professional career will catch up to him a bit. I think he has proven that he's not injury prone. He has proven that he's durable. He has proven that he can manage the rigors of the Premier League. But I just think that he's played so many minutes in the last few seasons without rest, without rotation really, and with no injuries, that either through a rotation of some sort or through maybe a soft tissue injury somewhere, it will come back to bite him. I still rank him 6th, so he's still close to a top 5, and I can see why you guys rank him above KDB. So it's not sacrilege, but I just have a little fear that it might come back to bite him.
I mean, I guess we could, from Ryan, you're the resident kind of gooner in the office here today. Should we discuss Arsenal rotation potential this year?
I mean, it sounds like you want him to be rotated more to prevent injury, which is a weird.
I'd rather him rotated than injured. I'd rather him rotated than being injured.
But it's not binary. I mean, we just got through saying that Bruno's played 600,000 games every 6 months, and he's been perfectly fine. He's insufferable, fair, so that's probably why. But
it's true, and I think
Saka's very young.
Yeah, he's a good
bulked
lad.
Up as well, so he's going to be.
I think the fact that Bruno doesn't play much in European competitions, which might change this season, but hasn't so far, because United haven't been involved in the latter stages of the Champions League in recent seasons. I think that offsets him a bit. I think Saka hasn't had many rotations even in cups because he's the only right winger they have. But again, it's 2 spots, so I'm not gonna die on this hill. I can see why you guys had Saka ahead of him.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I mean, these are these are, as we say in the Midwest, I don't know if you guys have this saying or not. It's a horse apiece at this point. I mean, you don't have that saying? No? Okay. It's all right. Yeah, we have that. We also have the saying that means the same thing. 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
What?
6 of one, half dozen of the other? Yeah. Unless you're dealing with a baker's dozen, of course, then that throws everything off. All right, let's move right along. Okay, here's our second set. And the reason that I cut it off where I did, you can see this goes Madison from consensus rank number 9 all the way through Soboslai Dominic at 28. You're welcome, Totti.
That was very good. That was a very good pronunciation.
Wow. And so the reason I did that is because for me, I am pretty happy with almost any one of these guys, except for, well, you can look at my rankings, except for maybe Jared Bowen. And I was on the fence about Soboslai until maybe a couple of days ago. I'm still not completely sold on him getting all of the minutes or at least most of the minutes. I'm worried about Jones. I'm worried about some of the other cogs in that Liverpool midfield. But I don't know. This is a weird crop because it feels to me like, okay, a lot of these guys here, you can get them throughout the second round and even into the early third round. And I'm pretty much happy with almost any one of these. There's a few that I favor over the others, but I mean, for the most part, this is just a really good crop of midfielders. And this is why I think drafting early is actually better this year, now that I've had 2 drafts where I drafted late. Let me quickly just go through them for audio listeners. So we got Madison at 9, Grealish at 10, Odegaard at 11, Martinelli at 13, Phil Foden 14, Mitoma 15, March at 16, Eze 18, Bowen 20, Morgan Gibbs White 21, Pascal Gross 24, Kulusevski 25, and Szoboszlai at 28. Who would like to attack this first?
Go ahead, Totti.
Yeah, I think it's a big tier, obviously. So there is going to be a bit of difference in opinions among our rankers and among our listeners as well. I would like to highlight 2 of these players that we maybe speak less about. One is Solly March, who is currently out with an unknown to me type of injury. Probably something with his legs or his muscles.
Says hammy.
Says hammy, yeah. That's what I thought. I didn't want to go jump the gun, but yeah, I thought hammy. And De Zerbi hasn't been a bit shady about his return, so I would expect him not to be in the squad for game week 1, which maybe puts a somewhat of a question mark around his beginning of second round grade. And the other one I wanted to mention, and probably not to move him anywhere, just to have a little side note for him, is Jared Bowen. We have heard or we have read rumblings about discontent at West Ham for some time now. Nothing major came out. I think there was no national news stories, just some Twitter accounts saying it, but it's become a bit more prevalent in the last few days, and it seems like the technical director and the coach David Moyes are not seeing eye to eye on transfers, and that's why no one's come in yet. And as much as the Conference League win is a huge historic thing, we can't ignore that they have flirted very hard with relegation last season.
Absolutely.
And haven't strengthened. Their main go-to guy, Antonio, is a year older, as is everyone else. But but he's definitely feeling the age a bit more. And to sort of caveat Bowen's position there is that it's been reported that Moyes loves and is pushing to get JWP in from Southampton. They're not getting it done yet, and it's still up in the air if they will get it done. But that's definitely has to be in the back of your mind when you are looking at your mids in round 2 and Jared Bowen is coming up.
Yeah. I passed on Bowen actually for Szoboszlai in a league for that particular reason. And I just also I had him last year and was pretty frustrated actually by him as a fantasy asset. He has his matches where he's completely anonymous. And I just was hoping, I guess I'm hoping for more than that from this crop here. So for me, Bowen's really the only one that I kind of take issue with here, because I think I've come around a bit on Szoboszlai after seeing him yesterday. I was pretty impressed, to say the least. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big reason why I think you can wait a little bit, a tiny bit, to get mids, because there's such a good crop this season, as you can see from these guys. I mean, this doesn't even include Paquetá or McNeil.
Right.
When healthy, are pretty close to this group. So there's a bigger fall off in the other positions than mids this season. And yeah, it's levels in terms of this group. But yeah, as you said, there were all of them could make a case for your mid one, and all of them in a normal season might go round 2, but there's a fair amount of these guys that you can get round 3. And I've seen Gross slip even further. So
yeah, I got him in 4.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, yeah, and like I said, I'm happy with most of these guys. Some people, I'd say Kulusevski is an interesting one. You've got some people thinking it's going to be a complete reversal from last year, and he's going to absolutely dominate. Some people thinking maybe that he is not nailed anymore. I mean, it's just, I say the jury's a little bit out on Kulusevski. Some people are over the moon. Some people are very skeptical. As you can see by our ranks, Ryan, you're the lowest on him. What's your thought on that? As you can see, Draft Genie has him at 18 overall.
Yeah, I get the newfound optimism, I suppose, for Spurs with Postecoglou, but I mean, for new managers, especially system guys like Postecoglou is, it takes time to implement the system. So I mean, they're not going to. I mean, I'd be surprised if they hit the ground running, and there's going to be some growing pains. Obviously, the Kane situation, the longer it stretches out, is going to cause some issues. There is a bit of a crowd around that position, depending if Kane stays. I mean, Son can play there. Madison in a pinch could play there. Richarlison could play there. I like Kulusevski as a player. I think he's good, and he had a down year. I think he'll improve upon that. Whether or not he's going to be a top 20 player is just a thing that's up for debate. So I'd rather get him late third, mid to late third. I wouldn't want to take on that much risk much earlier than that, but yeah, I get the narrative, but I just think they're going to take a little bit longer to gel than folks realize.
Yeah,
agreed. And there is argument again, the same that we mentioned or I mentioned in the Defenders pod, that if you look at the team with the on paper best players on Spurs, with Kane up top, Son, Kulusevski, Madison, maybe Lo Celso, Porro, and Udogie, then you have 7 attackers and three defensive players in that team. So yeah, they need to sacrifice some creativity and attack for some solidity at the back. And whether it be Porro, whether it be Udogie, whether it be Kulusevski, it's up for debate, but probably worth sort of keeping an eye on that and maybe tempering some expectations.
Our friend Benji is in the chat currently. Benji, what's up, brother? Of course, always saying controversial takes, which is fair. We love you for it, Benji. If Mitoma makes even a marginal improvement over last year, his place here could look a bit freezing cold takes by the end of the year. Yeah, you're right. Us having him top 15 is a freezing cold take, Benji. But that aside, let's talk about Brighton quickly, because when it comes to all these mids here, obviously you're seeing quite a few Brighton mids. Mitoma sure was putting up crazy numbers. Why is he not higher? Go ahead, Totti.
We need to remember that we had some issues with Mitoma not finishing, and we had some issues with Mitoma not getting returns, and we were happy and we were enjoying our waiver wire pickup, getting 10 points on the routinely every week, but he wasn't getting 20s, he wasn't getting 30s. I remember Ryan commenting that when we were all on the Mitoma train, and I think Benji's referring to if he's actually puts gather some attacking returns, then we need to talk about him in the ilk of Martinelli and Grealish, because if his floor is around 10 and he gets an attacking return every second game, then
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what? Okay, so we were off on him by 5 spots. Consensus rank, like, okay.
Yeah, you can direct that to Genie at 24, but not to
we'll blame it on Genie, Benji.
I mean, his ghost points per start were, I think, under 8 still, and he was great. I mean, obviously, we all picked him up on the wire, which was a nice bit of solidarity. And yeah, he can improve, of course, but yeah, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of games with Europe. Folks will start to probably adapt to the De Zerbi system. They won't be as surprised. So there's a lot of headwinds, I think, for Brighton. But I mean, love Mitoma as a player, and I would love to see him prove us slightly wrong and add a few more attacking returns to his game. But I mean, because of all of those potential hurdles, you got to price that in, and I think the end of the top 15 is fair.
Which of these Brighton midfielders currently on the screen, Gross, Mitoma, or March, had the highest fantasy points per game from Boxing Day till the end of the season?
I feel like it's a trick question, so I'm thinking it's Gross.
I think it's March.
Not only is it March, he was actually the top scorer in terms of points per game.
I definitely knew that.
More than Bruno. Over, well, not quite. About 3/4 of a point higher per game on average than Bruno.
Yeah.
So there you are.
I think based on DraftLab's projections, he is a first-round pick. It's just all the intangibles that make us drop him a bit more. Not to 45
projections.
I haven't checked the.
We're not going to talk about those.
You don't cite the Bible anymore.
Oh no, blaspheming here.
It's supposedly based on Fantrax projections, which I actually did check. There are not going to be any clearances next season in the Premier League. Just 0.
And everyone that plays a double game week will score 60 points.
Sucks for Tarkowski.
Yeah.
Dropping down your ranks, everybody. Yeah, Gavin brings up a great point. Asian Cup. I mean, let's talk about Europe. Let's talk about all the extra games that Brighton are going to be playing, especially ones that they're going to want to win and perform well. You just wonder if there's more rotation coming up, and they've got more attackers. They've got a lot of cooks in that attacking kitchen. So I just think, yeah, I think I like him at 15. I don't know if I like him any higher than that, but Benji is retracting his criticism and saying that he was referring to Genie all along, which is a likely story, Benji.
Yeah, sure.
Let's move along. Okay. Our next crop starts with Dwight McNeil, consensus rank 29. Michael Olise, 32. Paquetá, 33. Joelinton, 41. Saeed Benrahma, 44. Mason Mount, 47. Alex Iwobi, 50. I'm still taken aback seeing his name here, but Alexis McAllister, 53. Harvey Barnes, 54. Andres Pereira, 55. Casemiro, 68. And Hamid Traore, 63. So this goes from consensus rank 29 to 63. A lot of names here, and this is where it starts to get a little bit dicey. This is where things start to kind of, and if you look at our rankings, there tends to be a lot more differentiation between the different analysts. So given that, where do you guys want to kick it off? Dwight McNeil with the injury. Should we talk about that?
Yeah, I think Olise and McNeil would have been firmly in the tier above.
Yeah,
had it not been for their injuries.
Yeah, Olise was before the injury. I think with France was solidly going a bit earlier than what Eze is going right now. So we're thinking early to mid second round. McNeil looked like he was late second, early third, and obviously with the injuries, that's pushing them back. I don't think we have any real clarity on either of the injuries, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we know that Elise is probably a couple months. McNeil's, there's fears that it's bad, but I haven't seen anything concrete. I don't know if you guys have.
No, not yet.
No. And I think for me, at least, I had Elise dropped to the same as Ryan, 40-41. Not only because of the injury, because of the transfer rumors as well. I think if he leaves Palace to go to a place where he's going to fight for a place, coming back from injury to his new team, that screams second half of the season he's going to be good. First half of the season he's going to struggle.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Ryan, I haven't seen anything on McNeil. Olise, I haven't seen anything on the recovery. All we heard was grade 3. Was it hamstring tear?
Yeah, hamstring tear.
Yeah. But of course, if you're KDB, you just shake off a hamstring tear like it's nothing. So, I mean,
he shook off the skull fracture as well.
Not everyone who could just
busted up eye,
shake off a skull fracture. All right. So let's do this quick. Who out of this crop, who are your sure things? If you could only take like 3 of these guys, who are you taking?
Those are, I think, 2 different questions. Sure, the only sure thing in this list is Alex effing Iwobi.
Ridiculous.
He'll get you 10 every week.
You're right.
Take that.
But he'll never get you more than 15.
No. Of course not. He's a sure thing. Joe Linton is somewhat similar. He's pretty reliable. The upside guys that you can get later, I think I got Ben Rama in the 7th or the 8th, and obviously playing time is a big concern for him. But if he does play, he's shown us that he can score very well. So he's one of those later guys that I think has a good upside, despite whatever the hell happens with West Ham. The lack of signings actually would probably help him, to be honest. Yeah, Totti and I had a back and forth on Harvey Barnes, so I don't know if we want to rehash that.
I mean, you can see draft line pretty low on him. It's Genie, surprisingly, Genie and Totti who are propping up this ranking.
Always been truthers.
I am admittedly a Harvey Barnes truther. He does have a high goal assist dependency. But I think he has been solid on Leicester every year that we drafted him. He's always had a third, fourth round ADP, and he's delivered on that every year. And he's joining a better team with better attack, with better finishers. So that's why I have him at 30.
How often does he play?
I think he's first choice.
Okay. This year, you think he's nailed? I don't know.
With ASM leaving, I think he'll be the starting left winger.
Not that ASM was the starting left winger last season, but I agree. I think Barnes is the starting left winger. I think Joe Linton shuffles back into the midfield 3. With Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, the Isak up front with Almiron to start with on the right.
So, Totti, who are your 2 to 3 that you're taking if you don't want this pick to bust, let's say?
I'm taking Harvey Barnes, obviously, and
if you don't want this pick to bust,
and it's between Joe Linton and McNeil. Even with the injury, I think McNeil is
115. I just saw the Genie's.
Genie's ridiculous. Come on.
McNeil on a working Burnley was.
Let me
a
see who's
top
around
5 mid.
115.
Yeah. Scroll to 115 and see who else is there. Oh man, it's like you're gonna take either him or what? Like
Laporte, probably.
Yeah. Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think as much as Everton is a bit of a question mark, out of all this lot, he's the only one who has consistently been able to be a top 10 midfielder at the end of the season.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I mean, I love Hama Traore, but I mean, talk about cooks in the kitchen. My God, especially if they get Alex Scott, that'll be, just not. I'm not confident that he'll start and stay on sets. Pereira, there's a lot of question marks going into Fulham. I saw early on that he was going to be value because he was dipping down to like the 6th, 7th round, but his ADP has crept up a little bit with Mitro probably leaving and him getting over an injury. I still think he can be value. It just depends on where he goes.
Ryan, you will never fucking believe this. This must be fate. 115 in our consensus rankings is none other than Genie's boy, Damari Gray.
That is.
So to be fair, he did displace Gray for him.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. All right. Anyway. Okay. Anything else on this lot? For me, honestly, if I'm posing myself the same question that I did to you guys, I'm probably going to go McNeil. Paquetá, I really like, and Big Joe, I think. But like you said, Ryan, you can get Big Joe later. I got him in the 5th today, and I was overjoyed.
Yeah. Ryan, can you tell us a bit more about your 32nd ranked player? Money Mace?
Another one of these mea culpas. Oh, yeah.
My bad.
You
You can draft him. No, you can't. Not anymore. That's
No.
right. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
I don't have the pleasure, privilege. I think he'll be a little bit lower than that, so it's probably a clerical error, as they say.
You'll just fire your assistant after this.
Yeah. She's gone.
So if you were lower on him, Mason Mount would definitely drop down a little bit in our ranks, maybe closer to 55, somewhere around
you wouldn't drop closer to 55 because only Robbie has him at 54. So our consensus ranks, the aggregator actually disregards the outline pick. Yeah. So
so don't blame the shit on me, man.
Okay, all right, that's good to know.
His ranking is solid there at 47. It's just that it hit me that you had him at 32, but I thought that must be your assistant fucking things up again.
It's got to be.
The case for Mace, as insufferable as it sounds, is he's going to be nailed on. He's been nailed on at every team he's been on, whether it's England, Chelsea, whatever, for going back to Derby, whatever reason. United will be better. He has been abysmal in preseason. I'll give you that. So he has the chance to pop. Like I said, I would probably drop him down a bit, but in terms of lottery tickets in this group, he's one of those guys. So yeah, he's not your guarantee steady Eddie from this group, but he is a flyer. I would say he has the potential to be better than a lot of these guys, but we'll see.
In chat, we have a comment from George. He brings up something that
he's actually not Greek by chance, is he?
I think he is.
The Greekest name I've ever seen in my life.
Very Greek name. I'll pop it up on the screen here in a second, but it's going to cover up the player that we want to talk about, which is Hama Traore, and that's the reason I actually almost cut this list off at Casemiro, but I included Hamid Traore in it because just I like him. But I have similar concerns to what George has. He says he might be do not draft for him at the moment. I don't know if I'm going that far, but I am definitely concerned about Traore. I even picked your guys' brain on that today as I was drafting to try to see what you thought about him, and you basically talked me out of him. So do you want to do that for listeners as well?
I mean, I was talking from the beginning of this segment about all of the collective cooks in the Vitality kitchen down in Bournemouth. There's just so many players vying for a spot. And from what I know about the Iraola system, I just don't know if it's conducive for a more kind of, I don't want to say pedestrian, but I guess languid number 10 that's a bit creative. So yeah, I just don't know if he's going to be first choice. We all know that he had that great stretch last season, and then got injured. So we know that in the right circumstances, he can ghost out of his mind, but I just don't think he'll get consistent opportunities, at least right away, barring injuries. So that's the big concern for me. And if they get Alex Scott, who is also a creative player, then I think then he would be D&D for me.
Yeah, he's close. He's close to D&D.
All right, fair enough. So we should maybe even move him down, to be honest.
Should have.
Okay.
All
right,
hand grenades.
George. Thanks for keeping us honest. All right, here we go. So this is the final group. I know this is going to be hard to see just because there's a lot here. There are some players that, don't worry, we're going to talk about why they're not in this group. But this is kind of our final one, at least one to focus on in terms of guys that you really want to try to bring in. So there's a lot of names here. Let me run through them very quickly. They go from consensus rank 70 to 101. And there's going to be some obvious interesting discrepancies, most of them back to Draft Genie. But let's talk through that again. Okay, we've got Doucouré at 70, Bernardo Silva, Mykhailo Mudryk, Miguel Almiron, Josh Brownhill, Bruno G, Leandro Trossard, Declan Rice, Jacob Ramsey, Justin Kluivert. Thank you, Totti. No, Justin Kluivert, Yuri Tielemans, Kevin Schad, Jadon Sancho, Sandro Tonali, and Harry Wilson. Okay.
Brownhill 200 just kills me.
Genie hates Burnley assets with a passion. We know that to be true. And it doesn't even have any basis in reality anymore because Dyche is gone. Company is a much more attacking, interesting, exciting style of play manager. I mean, I don't get it, but it's whatever. Yeah. All right. Out of this batch, who do you love? Who are you not a huge fan of?
I'm not a huge fan of Tonali. I think he'll be more defensive. I don't see him taking many sets off of trips. I don't love Bruno G. Kind of a similar. Although, I mean, the introduction of Tonali might allow him to get forward a little bit more, but I'll believe it when I see it. Almiron, not my cup of tea. Way too streaky and goal dependent, and they have a bit more options this season. So he's not on my list. Doucouré, not on my list either. I think he'll be a bit more defensive too. Bernardo Silva was horrific last season.
Why would Doucouré suddenly be more defensive in the same system?
Because Danjuma is coming in as number 10, possibly, and Doucouré was playing that number 10 role. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Mudryk, kind of a lottery ticket. I don't see him as a starter if everybody's healthy. That Nkunku injury might open up a spot. but he's one of those guys you can get usually later. So he's another one of those lottery tickets. Oh my God, Deli.
No, Adam brought
Love
up
the
Dele
interview,
Alli.
but yeah, it's still not.
No.
Still not doing it. Yeah, I'll stop there for now.
All right. How about for you, Totti?
Tackle some of these.
For me, I like Bernardo Silva. I think
How?
it's a bit of a 4D chess situation, but I think Barcelona have enough center mids with Oriol Romeo going there and with Gavi there as well. I think they don't need Bernardo Silva, and they're going to spend the Ousmane Dembele money possibly on Cancelo instead of Bernardo Silva. So Silva is staying, I think, and Pep wants him to stay, and he will share right wing minutes with Alvarez and Foden, and so he will get the minutes. He'll get the minutes, and he started this. Well, that's what you get at Man City.
Some minutes. He will get some minutes. Yes,
he will get some minutes, and I think he will get some production. That said, last season he was extremely streaky. He started the season very well, and then dropped off an absolute cliff. So you need to pay attention to that drop off, and get out when you can. I still think that he is the cheapest way for you to get a piece of a Man City attack. But you can get him at like
reason.
Yeah, but look at the other players in this list. They're either defensive midfielders, absolute rotation pieces like Trossard, or just not very good players. And there is a Man City attacking midfielder on this list. Obviously, we know why he's there, but I think he's cheap and possibly he has the highest ceiling out of this slot.
I mean, that is a good comment. You guys aren't surprised on anyone. So yeah, I'll brighten it up a little bit. I like Kluivert as opposed to Traore. I think he does fit Iraola's system. It's obvious because he did buy him from Valencia during his time in Spain, and he must have seen Kluivert up close and really liked him. So that's always a good sign. I saw him play at Valencia a bit. He had his moments for sure. So I think he'll probably hit the ground running. And yeah, it's kind of a bet on Bournemouth finding their feet with this new manager, which I'm all for. Wilson has his upside as well, based on the end of last season. Where Fulham goes without Mitro, if he does leave, is another story. Rice and Trossard are very interesting. Rice obviously is a CDM, but he had slightly better numbers at West Ham. Will he come in the Xhaka role, which would allow him a little bit more freedom to get up and down the pitch? He'll always get his interceptions and tackles won and all of those points, but will he get up enough to get some attacking returns? So that would be predicated upon him playing alongside Partey, and with Partey taking the deeper role. If not, then he's not worth rostering, in my opinion. So that's really up in the air. And then, yeah, Trossard, I would say I still don't see him in our best 11 as well as he's done in preseason and as good of a player as I think he is. But he's just so flexible. It kind of detracts from his ability to be in the best 11. So those two I'm really unsure of.
Trossard is one of those guys. If you look at WAR, wins above replacement, right? Like in terms of like him being better than any guy you're going to get off the waiver wire. He's basically like a Man City player, right? Where like if you could factor in
Tsimikas or something,
yeah, Tsimikas, or yeah, something like that. If you can factor in the rotation and somehow hold him, keep that spot on your bench, and just know that you're going to be able to slot him in for X number of games over the course of the season. He's absolutely worth it. He's definitely worth it. I mean, he's going to deliver fantasy points when he starts. That's just the only question is how often that is.
Which is why I think you should probably start treating him more like a City cover. So pairing him with another Arsenal asset, I think is probably the play. Rostering him by himself would probably be a bit maddening.
Yeah.
A player I like out of this lot, other than Bernardo Silva, is Kevin Schade, who had a rocky start to his time at Brentford, but as the author of the Brentford preview, I did a little too much digging into how they operate and how they are likely to play with Tony in Tony's absence, and I think he features in both of their primary formations, both the 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, whichever way you look at it, or the 4-3-3, and I think he gets most minutes after Mbomo, and I think he will kick on. So
haven't seen him much preseason.
Yeah, he has one assist, but nothing to write home about.
Fair enough.
I don't know if this is right. I was just checking on Doucouré, but I'm looking at, as I mentioned in the last podcast, FPL Ron Frosk has an insanely amazing preseason tool. That's a massive Google spreadsheet of all the preseason games. He has Everton's, not the one they just played, but the one before the game before that. He has a 4-4-2 with Danjuma and Iwobi leading the line, which is interesting. Probably won't happen starting the season, but then Garner, Doucouré, Idrissa Gueye, and McNeil were the midfield in that game. I don't know. It's interesting. Regardless, I think even if you think Doucouré moves back a little bit, I saw enough of Everton last season, fortunately or unfortunately, probably the latter, but I saw enough of them to know that like a lot of their players were actually getting into dangerous areas. I was actually really impressed with the amount of times I saw like Onana up in the opponent's box. So I think that I still think Doucouré is gonna be fine. I'm doing a 180 from like a couple of years ago when Benji and I had a spat about that. But actually I like him now. I like him in the current system. And yeah, I've always liked his talent. I was always skeptical of what he could actually contribute. And I think in this system he can.
No freezing cold Doucouré take from Joe.
Freezing cold.
Benji calls him out.
I mean, I have him the highest of anybody except for Robbie. So yeah, I guess I should have a reason for that.
Jesus, Robbie.
Yeah, I know, right? All right. One player I like out of this group is, granted, he's injured, but Jacob Ramsey, with as late as you can get him in drafts, I would absolutely scoop him up. He was fantastic last season. He was nailed in the starting 11, and I think he will be again once he comes back. I'm a big fan, and I think that especially now that the injuries happened, people know about it, and he's plummeting in drafts, and so you can get him at a value if you're willing to hold for, I don't know, a month or whatever it is.
What is it?
That's a great question. I looked at it today. I think it's at least Fantrax has it being all right. Supposedly expected to return. He was not included in the traveling squad for Villa's preseason and United States tour. Late fitness test for opening weekend, supposedly. But that's Fantrax. We should really check Premier News.
See what his projections are as well.
Exactly. Yeah, Gavin said he had him in his top 50 before the injury. But regardless,
Yeah, he was
I
going
like him.
4th round prior to the injury.
Yeah.
5th round.
And if now that turns into a 9th round pick, sign me up. Absolutely.
Well, if he gets back, then yeah.
Yeah.
If you have to hold him for weeks on end, then don't sign me up.
Um,
Sign me out.
Miss me with
apparently, Ryan, did you keep track of the Villa friendly today? Apparently, Tielemans had a fantastic game.
that. Yeah, I did. Because I was going back and forth and fucking McGinn. Yeah, he and Dougie Louise is an interesting situation. I think I'm worried that they'll cancel each other out, to be honest. The opening of a spot in midfield with Ramsey being out they're basically the same player. So it would be tough to play with both of them on the pitch at the same time. I think one of them loses out. So I think Tielemans probably, depending on his name recognition a bit in terms of the draft. So I'm staying away, but I could see a world in which he, breaks through a little bit, but nah, 6th round, I'm taking somebody else.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I think that about does it on this group. Yeah. Yep, cool. All right. Here are a couple that did not make any of the previous lists that we discussed, and some that are quite low in our consensus ranks that came out today. And maybe I just wanted to mention them quickly. So we've got Kovacic at 105, Caicedo at 113, Buendia at 114, Willock at 116, Enzo Fernandez at 127. And these are all guys who are going a lot higher in drafts than what we have them ranked. So I just wanted us to kind of quickly mention why we have these guys so low. So any of them you guys want to tackle, feel free.
I'll take Buendia. I used to love him, like all of us, obviously. Different player now. Has had a good preseason, to be honest. I think I watched that whole preseason game against Newcastle, and he was great. Having said that, he was horrible fantasy-wise last season, despite playing quite a bit. He was averaged less than 7 points per start. And he got a lot of opportunities in the Emery system. So I just don't think, and he has the exact same PPS as McGinn, 6.8, which is super mediocre and not worth drafting, which is why I think it comes down to Emery's system. It's just not conducive for points to be scored by that many people, let alone the midfielders. So that's why I think he's probably being drafted higher than he is, just because of his past achievements and his name, and maybe somebody watched the preseason and thought that he looked good. So I'm still off on him, but I wish him the best, obviously, but I just don't see him getting out of this rut points wise.
Yeah.
I'll take Kovacic. I think the assumption on Kovacic is that he somewhat steps into the Gundogan role with his production. While I think he is a good player and brings a lot of value to the City team, I don't think he'll be the box crusher that Ilkay Gundogan was, and therefore I struggle to see his production being close to what Gundogan's was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a stickler for this one because I definitely butcher names, but it's Gundogan. That G
Sorry.
is silent.
Sorry.
Turkish. Yeah. No, it's okay. The City fans that I hear say Gundogan is just that's when it bothers me.
I mean, it's pretty much every podcast that I listen to. They say it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Idiots.
president they've had for 20 years also has a similar type. It's Erdogan.
But we did say Fernandes
Enzo.
instead of Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
From Nange, yeah.
Yeah.
And Tielemans.
Portuguese.
Tielemans.
Yeah.
Also, what about Kieran Trippier?
Willock.
The guy's English, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. He's as English as fucking Sunday roast. Yeah. I'll give him.
Trippier.
As far as Caicedo,
Kieran.
Kieran Trippier.
Kieran.
Anyway,
Anyway,
Enzo, real quick.
yeah. Go. I was going to mention that because I just looked up his numbers. Since Boxing Day, 6.39 points per game. I mean, people talk about him having a floor. Not really. Like I don't understand. I don't understand the narrative behind this guy. I just don't get it. He's not a fantasy asset. He's a great defensive midfielder. He's going to be one of the best in the world for the next 15 years, but he's not a fantasy asset.
Yeah, the only glimmer of hope that I had for him this season is if they sign Caicedo, which would give him more license to get forward. The fact that they haven't, means that he's going to have the same middling production that you just mentioned, Joe.
Yeah. And I mean, even that is like, God. I mean, you want to talk about players who are similar. Well, Mason Mount actually just right above him from last season. Since Boxing Day, 6.35 points per match. So that's brutal. But like other players like Amadou Onana's right there. And nobody thinks like he's an insane or a really good fantasy asset. It's just like these are all these Jeffrey Schlupp. These are all these same type of guys, and we know what they are. So people just need to start treating Enzo the same way. Joe Willock, I'm over him. I'm done with him. And now he has more competition. So I don't know why we're still talking about him. But
he did, to be fair, have that run.
I know. I put it in the doc. I'm aware. I just thought people would be like, wait, where's Joe Willock?
He had a great run.
He had a great run.
He does every season, doesn't he?
He had a great run, just like Almiron.
Fantrax is projecting that he'll score 11 a game. So
the Bible says it's true.
Yes. St. Paul's letter to Willock.
All right, you smartasses. Okay, late round gems. Whoever wants to tackle this first, go for it. Who are a late round gem that you're targeting between 9 and 12, and a late round gem that you're targeting between 13 and 16? You don't have to give away the farm, but give us at least one of your sleepers.
Kind of do.
At least the barn.
The barns.
Go ahead. No, I'm good. Go ahead, Totti. I want to think about this.
I'll go Anthony Gordon.
Nice. I love that.
I'll go Anthony Gordon. And there was some chatter about him in the YouTube chat while we were talking Newcastle attackers. And I think Almiron is on thin ice at right wing. I think he will start the season if he doesn't pick up an injury at right wing. But Gordon will come in and play minutes, and he will be good, I think, on the right wing. He's one of my late-ish round picks. The other one for me is Facundo Buonanotte.
Nice.
Who I think he will start game week 1.
How?
Instead of Solly March. So as I said, in Enciso will start as well. I think Enciso will start as the furthermost midfielder in the midfield 3, and I think
he has the best opportunity to be a consistent starter from all those cooks. Outside of obviously the nailed on Mitoma, March.
I agree, but because he can play center mid as well. But as for late round punts who have a good chance of starting early and hitting the ground running. I like Buonanotte because I think, as I said in the pod 2 days ago for defenders, after like round 13, you're drafting for game week 1, and as long as you don't hear anything on Solly March getting back into training or whatever, then that right wing spot is open for business, and I think Buonanotte has a chance at least. Obviously, there are a lot of options at Brighton, especially attacking options, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed for him.
I like it.
Yeah, 9 through 12. Yeah, I like Kluivert. Brooks is another one of those Bournemouth boys. If you get one of the other ones previously, he's kind of a good cover in case he emerges. You can get him usually pretty late. Let's see here. Yeah, we talked about Shada.
What about Saint Nate? What are you guys thinking about Saint Nate?
Stop.
Nah, man,
He's a seasoned veteran of Premier League football.
He could be a flyer. Yeah, I guess he could be a flyer late round if you want, but I
mean, Burnley have City and then a blank, so probably not worth drafting any Burnley players.
No.
I would say, but yeah, I think later in the season, when they're stuck not being able to progress the ball against solid Premier League teams, then I think they'll turn to Saint Nate.
That is quite interesting.
Tom's saying he's ready to get hurt again by Damsgaard. I am not. I'm never again.
Tom, you got to guard your heart, man. You can't do that to yourself. You cannot do that to yourself.
Once bitten.
So Mike Drop Daily Fantasy Sports is saying, with Willian now looking like he's leaving, any Fulham guys interesting as late flyers? I was just going to say, yes. As a very late flyer, Genie's boy, Damari Gray. Feel free to add him. Personal terms. Hudson-Odoi is not a midfielder, but yes, you're right. At least not in Fantrax.
I'm trying to transition us into the forward spot.
Nice. I like Damari Gray really late. 9 to 12, I like maybe Alfie Doughty from Luton, I guess.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They also have blank in game week 2, just FYI.
That's right. They do have a blank. Which is frustratingly against Burnley.
At Brighton, and it's almost as bad as Burnley, to be honest.
Yeah, I just have a feeling about him where, as long as he doesn't lose his spot.
Oh my god.
I have a feeling about him. No. This one, trust me. As long as he doesn't lose his spot, I think he's going to ghost pretty heavily. So I would check him out. And he's a mid, so he's playing wing back. He's a mid, so he's not going to lose points. And just shut the hell up.
Didn't we say that
Mark
RG's taking over his spot?
Mark my words. We don't know Ryan Giles necessarily, or is it Giles? We don't know that necessarily yet. Most Luton fans are saying that Doughty can play on both sides, and that it would be incredibly harsh for him to be dropped after his contributions last season to get them up. So I think he'll at least get the beginning of the season, and I think you just kind of gauge and see how he does. But I'm willing to give it, 3-4 weeks.
Until the break.
Sure. Yeah, maybe.
So that's 2 games, essentially, because you're not starting him against Brighton, and you're not starting him in a blank.
I mean, why not against Brighton?
At Brighton? That's a tough fixture.
We're getting him for his ghosts, not necessarily for... And again, he doesn't need a clean sheet. So...
Not going to have the ball much.
I don't know. We'll talk about it after game week 1.
We will.
You're right. They won't have much of the ball at all. At all.
but he
I'm
will
sorry.
have all of the ball when they have the ball.
Yeah. All right.
Forwards?
Sounds like a keeper.
No, he's a midfielder. All right, that is it for midfielders. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. That is it for midfielders. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and cut this here for any audio listeners. So if you're curious why there's such an abrupt cutoff, it's because in the live show, we are going right into forwards. So thanks for joining us. Go ahead and go on to the next one in the podcast feed. We will catch you with the forwards. For everyone else, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right. So 23-24 forwards preview. We're going to start with a rankings discussion. We just put out some rankings yesterday. So we're going to be able to talk about those. We're also going to get into some late round flyers / kind of lottery tickets that you could look at. And then, of course, if anybody has questions, post them in chat, get at us, and we'll flash them up on screen and answer them as we can, as we go along. So just like last time, guys, we're going to be kind of short and sweet, but obviously don't feel like you can't dwell on or pose questions about any player in particular that you want to spend some more time on. So the first set of forwards that we want to talk about, I've actually broken it into kind of two different tiers here, because I think these are fairly, let's say, obvious or uniform between a lot of people ranking, and that is the fact that Erling Haaland and Mohamed Salah are going top 3 picks in almost every single draft you ever see. So we can talk about them quickly first. I think that basically the narrative writes itself. But then we have Rashford at our consensus 8 overall. We have Son at 12, which that one might be the controversial one. And then Gabriel Jesus, unfortunately, since the injury news, dropped to 17 overall, with Ryan actually being the lowest ranked on him, which is curious. But yeah, he was much higher. For anybody who's wondering, he was much higher in our rankings. And again, these just came out today, these rankings. So this is with the news of the procedure that was done and how long he's going to be out, which will be probably through the international break. So do we want to start with Haaland and Mo first, or are we pretty comfortable with just saying that's where those guys are?
Yeah, I don't think there's that much of a narrative for either of those two.
I'm with you. Totti, anything?
Yeah, the only thing probably worth mentioning is there's some rumors or murmurs about Salah getting into wider positions like he has been last season and scoring less, but I wouldn't really be concerned about that. So yeah, that's worth mentioning, but not worth dwelling over.
Well, okay.
Also AFCON.
Also
AFCON. But okay, there's a contingent of Darwin truthers this season, and the Darwin truthers believe that Darwin is going to eat into Salah's fantasy value.
The Darwin that we don't even know is a starter.
I don't believe that. I'm a truther. That. I don't believe that.
No, I know. This is just a narrative I've seen / heard online. So the two things don't have to necessarily be mutually exclusive. Like, we've seen it in preseason. Mohamed Salah, I think, has already assisted Darwin maybe 2 or 3 times. So I don't know why. I mean, yes, moving from a goal to an assist is going to be a few points lost, but over the course of a season, I think we're going to see much more of like a powerhouse Liverpool attacking line than we saw last season. And therefore I don't see Mohamed Salah being, I don't know that he's going to finish 3rd necessarily, but the reason you're drafting him there is because of the stability, the sureness that he's going to be like a top 10 player, almost assuredly.
Yeah, I think people are reading too much into the preseason regarding Darwin. I do think he will come good. He will break into the team at some point during the season. And when he does, obviously he's one of those guys whose points per starts is going to be probably higher than anyone he replaces, but maybe even higher than Salah's. But I just, based on the language Klopp uses or used after in interviews after preseason games, I think they're still working with Darwin to get him up to speed and get him close to the first team. There was a reason why he, fully healthy, was not a starter at the end of last season during that great run that Liverpool had to push United to the end for the top 4 spot. I still think it's Gakpo's spot, but I do think that Nunez will feature enough for him to get a good draft grade.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about that, obviously, as M. Andrews is alluding to in the chat. He said Noah, Nunez, Diaz, Jota, Gakpo can all pay off ADP-wise, so I'm excited for this next tier. I agree. We'll get there. All right. Ryan, tell me about Jesus and why you're so low on him.
I mean, he's going to be missing almost a month. I mean, best ideal scenario, he misses 4 games, basically. And they're a tasty run of games. Including Forest at home, game week 1, which, is about as good as you can get. So he's going to miss a big run. The fact that it's on the same knee that he also had to have surgery on after the World Cup last season is also concerning, just because, he'll definitely miss the 4 games. But if I knew when he came back from those 4 games he was going to be the same player and there wasn't a lingering issue of re-aggravating it again during the course of the season, then it would be one thing. But it sucks because I think he was due for a good season. I mean, it's all is not lost, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just those things push him into the second potentially early 3rd round, just because. Yeah, there's other folks in that tier that don't have those issues, so you have to take that into account. Son is an interesting one, very interesting one.
I mean, is he? We're all pretty high on him, except for Totti has him at 18. But I think everybody.
Interesting in the sense that he could be 18 or he could be 3.
Exactly.
A lot of variance there.
We'll take that into account. Plus, by the time you get to the end of the first round, you're already kind of like you're getting a little bit, I don't know, nervous about forwards, right? You want to make sure you have a forward, because if you're at the end of the first round, then you can either take a forward there, or you can take Nkunku or Watkins. in round 2. Otherwise, you're waiting until Mbomo at the end of round 3.
Yeah, that's the issue, and that's why although I have him ranked at 18, I'm okay if someone at the end of the first round or at the beginning of the second round gambles on him.
Okay.
I think missing due to the Asia Cup, probably losing all sets to Madison, and generally the huge question mark that Kane's departure will put across Spurs has me doubting Son's production this season. And I think, obviously, I don't want to go into Jesus because Ryan has said enough about him. I think what the interesting thing here is what you said, Joe, is that there is a big drop-off after this. And with Nkunku's injury, for leagues that are starting drafting without a lot of information on Nkunku's injury, he drops further down. So essentially, you're deciding on, after either missing out or having the opportunity to draft Son at the end of the first round or at the very beginning of the second round, you're looking at Watkins being the next forward up. Obviously, you as a manager at the end of the draft order have no chance of getting him. And as you said, you are hoping one of the Liverpool guys falls to you at the end of the third.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's Mbomo, who I've seen climb up draft boards ahead of the, or not all of them, but some of the Liverpool forwards.
I've seen him taken early third round.
So if there is a chance that all of the next tier is gone by the time you are getting to pick in the third round. So that is definitely an issue, and there's not much to reach for in the end of the third round, as we will see for our next year. So that definitely has a part to play in drafting Son at the end of the order.
Can I totally take on board all of those concerns, and you have to when considering Son. I can throw out the puppy dogs and ice cream version of the Son assessment.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and defend the Spurs player, please, Ryan. I want to hear this.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a lovely guy. He's a lovely guy.
He's such a nice guy.
It goes without saying, aside from being such a polite young chap that you want to marry your sister, daughter, aunt, whoever.
Mother.
Such a clean player.
Would never stamp on anybody.
No. I mean,
is this the campaign?
If he accidentally did, he would feel so bad about it, he would cry. He would cry.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
One of those salt of the earth. It's easy to forget that prior to the aberration from last season, that he was the top scorer the season before, and then I think he was second this season before that. So, I mean, has a penchant for being a top 3 player. Obviously, different scenarios. Madison coming in, he will lose some sets. If Kane leaves, he loses his, wingman. But Kane leaving, he takes on Pens, I assume. He would be the talisman and the guy, so he'd have potentially just as much opportunity to score. He does have the Asian Cup, so you have to consider that. But I mean, it's only at the end of the day a few games.
But they will get to the final.
I think
they almost always do.
Probably. The change in manager will take some time, but it won't be the Conte ball, death by 1,000 cuts.
God.
It will be front foot. He'll get his opportunities. He said that he was harboring a knock almost all of last season. He's such a nice guy. Why would he lie? So I think taking all that into account, if you get him between 10 and 15, he's got a shot of being a top 3 player. I'm not saying he will be, but he's shown that he has it in his locker. So of all the people in that region, I think, and particularly as we talked about, you need a forward. I think there's a case to be made for taking him there. That's all I'll say.
I'm happy with that. All right, shall we move? All right, here it is. The next tier that everybody's been curious about, even some in chat. It starts with Ollie Watkins at consensus rank 19. That might surprise some people because Nkunku has been rising up draft boards quite a bit. And some of us do have him above Watkins, but most of us, I think, still have him just under. So Nkunku 22, Isak 23 overall, Nunez 26, definitely a riser in our ranks as well. Luis Diaz 27, Brian Mbomo 30, Cody Gakpo 31, Harry Kane 35, and Diogo Jota 40. So as of recording, Harry Kane has not confirmed his exit at this point. So it's definitely a risk. It's a risk that many are gladly taking in the third round. Some people in the second round. If you want to hear more on that, nothing has changed since we recorded our Defender podcast, and we did include a little snippet in the beginning there about Harry Kane because it was such breaking news at the time. So go back and check that out. Listen to our Defender podcast. It's right in the very beginning. We talked about Harry Kane ad nauseum. So check that out for the reason why he's 35 in our ranks. But otherwise, guys, where do you want to start with this lot?
We talked about the Liverpool attackers already, so I want to start at Nkunku, who we mentioned already. I think he is he's definitely one to watch, but I'd recommend reading Sanji's excellent Chelsea preview, where he had him as one to avoid. As good a player as he is, there will be some teething issues, and he is currently out with an unknown injury. So if I have a choice of these players, then I currently have him a bit above Luis Diaz, but I'd probably go for Luis Diaz ahead of him.
Ooh. If healthy, I think I would go in Nkunku. I just think he has more.
If healthy, I would go for him as well, but he's currently not healthy.
I will say I don't think I had time after the. I didn't. Sorry, I'll get back to you in a second, Ryan. But I didn't revisit my ranks after the injury because it happened so late last night that I didn't update them for that. So I don't know how many of us actually updated for Nkunku's injury or not. But I'd be curious to hear. It sounds like you did, Totti, update yours.
I did, yeah.
Okay, mine are not reflecting that.
Nor mine, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd both have him closer to 30, I guess.
I have him end of round 2, but he's going at the beginning middle. Yeah.
So not dropping too much then.
No.
So currently you have him at 18 and 23, so that's.
We don't really have enough information on the. I mean, he had ice on his knee. I mean, he could be fine. There's still 2 weeks left into the season, so.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit cautious with knee.
I mean,
I've taken Ryan's last year's D&D advice to heart. Don't draft injured players. That was his D&D.
Okay, you were draft slot number 10, right? Follow me on this. You were draft slot number 10. By the time it got to you, all the forwards that you wanted were taken, and you took Madison. It's now come back to you at, what is that, pick 14, 15? And you have to take one of these forwards.
That's I might find myself in that very situation.
I think I'm banking on one of the Liverpool boys or Mbomo getting back to me in the third.
Yeah, I think it's too early to reach on any of these guys, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I'd shore up that midfield.
Yeah, you can get a Foden, you can get a Mitoma, you can get crazy value there from.
Maybe even Grealish falls.
I'd take Son, but I don't know if I'd punt on these guys.
Kiron.
I like Ali, but he's just so streaky. Kiron.
Kiron.
He might be there.
He might be there at 15.
Yeah,
I think you can't pass him up at
Guys, I told you had to take one of these forwards. You're disobeying the brief.
But it's never that.
But I don't wanna.
It's Manichaean scenarios.
No. Okay, so the point is this. So if the scenario I just posed to you, you're not taking one of these forwards. You're, like you said, you're taking another mid.
Yes.
Yeah. At 15, yeah.
I think that's good to know because Son will go higher than expected in some drafts. What if Jesus fell to you here at pick 14?
15.
15, sorry.
That's a tough one. That's some risk.
We're both drafting our home leagues at the end of the round, so we will be in this exact same position. That's why we are hesitant to answer.
Yeah. So I'll tell you.
Not because we don't want to tell you, just because we are.
No, I feel you.
Still.
No, it's because I don't really want to.
No, okay, sorry.
This exact
I
thing
don't know
happened to
yet.
me. This exact thing happened to me, except that Sun was available, and I took Sun at 10.
It's 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so you weren't forced to reach at 15. That is what you're saying, right?
Right. I took Sun at 10, and then I think I took 3 midfielders over the next 4 picks. And I like it. I like the way it turned out.
I mean, let's talk at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're at the end of that first round, we've talked about forwards, man. They get dicey after this set. Like literally after the ones you see on the screen right now, they get dicey.
I have a get out of jail free card in one league for that scenario because I traded and I got an extra pick at 26. So the forwards will still be there, so I can.
I love that.
If I want to go mid, I can do that and still get a decent forward.
This is why for anybody listening, if you have a choice of your draft pick, the beginning of the draft is so sexy because you get an elite pick, then coming back around to you, there's a good chance you can still get one or maybe even 2 of these guys if you want forwards. The midfielders, as we talked about in the last episode, the midfielders are still stock with a lot of those guys that are, I mean, all basically the same level. Your Kulusevskis, your McNeils, your Paquetas. Like the beginning of the draft is the way to go if you can.
I traded my second spot for 10 in that league and got that extra pick, which is the only reason why I did it.
Yeah, but that was also before the Harry Kane news.
Yeah. This is true. And I can't take Bruno at 2 and Haaland's going 1. So what's the point?
Yeah, fair enough.
I did the exactly same trade. I went from 2 to 12 while keeping my third rounder in 2. So
fucking copycat.
Draft friends.
Totti, I want to hear from you on this. I want to hear from you on this, Totti. So Gakpo and Jota. So obviously we had a comment in chat, but also DraftLad has been saying the same thing for a long time now, is that it's not sustainable to have all these guys so high in draft boards because if Darwin's getting more time, then that means one of the other guys doesn't. If Luis Diaz is nailed, then that means Jota is not. So it's one of those scenarios where do our rankings really make sense in that area?
They do, Joe. They do make sense, and it is because we do not draft for overall points scored. We draft for value on the team, and I think, to be fair, DraftLad's comment was it's unsustainable or infeasible. It's not feasible to have all the Liverpool forwards in the top 20 ranked. We have all of them in the top 50. That is a huge difference.
Yeah, true.
And this is where wins above replacement comes in. And this is where quality starts comes in. This is where all those Liverpool forwards' ability to win you a game week comes in, and they might not win it for you every week because then they would be named Haaland or Bruno or Salah, but they will, when they go off, they will win you your game weeks, and we will see the tier below this, and especially the one below that, they will not win you. They might win you 1 or 2 game weeks over the course of the 38 game week season, but we still, I think with our ranks right here of all the Liverpool forwards, we still believe that their ability to influence your fantasy team in a meaningful way is high enough so that they will represent value above what you could get later.
Who would be the best cuff? Darwin, Gakpo, if you could somehow pull it off?
I'm not a fan of handcuffs.
I know, but this is one scenario where it's like you want a piece of this high octane attack. There's a coin flip that one of these guys is going to be the consistent starter. If not, then it's a timeshare, in which case you have that slot in a really high power attack. It might be worth it in this case. Very rare case to have this cuff.
I would try to. I wouldn't spend a second and a third rounder on 2 Liverpool forwards. I would spend a second.
What about our scenario with the 2/3?
So would you pick 2 Liverpool forwards both in the 3rd round? I wouldn't. That's too much draft capital in one handcuff for me. The handcuff I'm looking for with these, if I get to or play my cards right and pick one of the 3 mid-level Liverpool forwards, Gakpo, Nunez, or Diaz, then I'm looking to take Jota as late as I can, and it's probably not a like-for-like positional handcuff like a Pochettino fullback at Spurs type situation, but and you will get matches where neither of them plays, and I think you felt the runt of this with that Ilkay Kevin handcuff that you constructed yourself, Ryan, at the end of last season. And on some weeks, they will get you, the 2 of them will get you 50 points. And on other weeks, neither of them will start. And that's why I hate handcuffs. And that's why this isn't a situation where I'm expressively looking for a handcuff for any one of these, because there is no positional relevancy. There's no. It's not like Diaz and Jota are a pair.
Jota I can't see a scenario in which neither Nunez or Gakpo don't start it, barring them both being injured.
Oh, for sure.
I can see Diaz starting on the left, Salah on the right, and Jota starting in the middle.
I can't see that, but you guys are the fans.
Yeah. Jota, as you can see for me, I'm the lowest on Jota, partly because I owned him last year, and partly because
he doesn't start enough.
Right, exactly. And you got to keep in mind that, like, I mean, you're not, by and large, you're not starting these guys off the bench. You're just not.
with the new rules.
Yeah, it just doesn't pay off enough for you to start any of these players off the bench. So it's just like a City player. As soon as you see them benched, you're going to your bench on your fantasy team, and more often than not, that leads you down a path where you end up regretting the high draft pick that you wasted on a player like this once you have 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks where they haven't started, and you just kind of start to.
Honestly, I'd rather handcuff Nunez with Konate. I know it's not a positional handcuff, as in forward for forward, but if you play your...
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if you play your cards right in your team selection...
Aren't going to get jammed up.
Then, yeah. And
sorry, Totti. Yeah, let me just break that down a little bit. You're saying, like, okay, here's a scenario. Liverpool play on a Monday, and you have Nunez and Konate, because you got Konate in like the 10th or whatever it was, right? Yeah. And so Konate is going to be your cover, regardless of whether or not Nunez starts.
Exactly, and if
it's really smart.
If neither of them starts, you're fucked anyway. That's like that happens, and then you're done. But cuffing rotation piece with non-rotation piece, I think, is the way to go, because there are no classic handcuffs anymore. No, that's why I mentioned Pochettino Spurs fullbacks, because those were, in every sense of the word, the classic handcuff. They were, if one doesn't start, the other one does. End of story. But this time around, with City, with Liverpool, with Arsenal, we're seeing questions about Martinelli starting up front, Trossard starting up front, and Nketiah. Everyone's in love with Balogun. Is he staying? Is he going? Is he getting close to the first team? There are a lot of questions, and these modern mostly attacking players are able to play all over the pitch. They're able to play every position in the attacking 5 or attacking 4, whichever team you're looking at. So you're not going to be able to get guaranteed minutes with a handcuff. You're only able to get guaranteed minutes with a handcuff if you have it's not even a handcuff, it's a safety net.
Yeah.
Rather.
Man,
and it costs much less in draft capital. So if you're picking Nunez or Hakpo in the 3rd round or end of the 2nd, you have to spend a 4th or 5th round pick on Jota to balance it out, where you could be picking someone like in my case, Harvey Barnes. Who I think, but you guys
were making such a good point. You were on a roll. And then you did that. No,
you see my point, yeah.
I see your point, and it's,
can we make a bet, Totti?
Making my head spin. I actually love where you're headed with this, because I have Martinelli in a league, and I was trying to think about how early I would be willing to go Trossard, and do I want to also try to get Kai, and instead
you go Magalhaes.
Or you get Saliba. Yeah, absolutely.
Not after all the slander.
Or Rice.
Yeah,
the Magalhaes slander.
Well, that's why I said Saliba.
Yeah. Oh, he's even
rather
worse.
Magalhaes
That's
than
even
Saliba.
Anyway, go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Totti, over under on how many Liverpool lineups do not include one of Hakpo or Nunez?
Oh, is this our first bet? Let's go. Let's go.
What's the number? Joe, give us the over under.
Yeah, Joe, give us a number.
Okay, Ryan, are you comfortable? Would you say that it's going to be, if I put the over under at 6?
I still think it'd be under. I'd be more comfortable with something like 8, but
I'll take the 6 and over, but I wouldn't take the 8.
What about 7?
It's big of you.
Said 6. I think 7 is the sweet spot, by the way. I think 7.
All right, fine, 7. Barring long-term injuries to both of them.
Okay, so we don't have our first bet then.
Not quite.
We agree.
Not quite. We need 7.
We agree that there are going to be 7 lineups that don't include Hakpo and Nunez.
Yeah.
But both, right?
With the release clause that both of them don't get injured at the same time. Long term.
Yeah. I mean, we agree. So
this is a tactical. Okay.
All right.
We are both drafting still.
Fair enough. We're
gonna have the same draft. I'm taking that damn cuff just to spite you.
Okay. Are we good on that? Anything else you want to mention from this particular page? I'm pretty high on Isak. I think he's gonna have a fantastic year personally.
I was gonna say I'm so torn on Isak.
I love him.
I could see him exploding. I could also see him being injury riddled.
Yeah,
I could see
sure.
him regressing a little bit.
Mid-season injury was very concerning.
I love him. I think he's nailed. I wish I was drafting in the beginning so I could come back around and take him. But I got 9 and 10 this year, and he's nowhere close to where I draft.
Yeah, of course he's gone by the time it comes back in the 3rd. Yeah, he's a tweener for me.
All right.
Draft Lad doesn't care for him.
Doesn't care for him. I'd be curious to hear why.
I would too.
We'll have to have him on. We'll blur his face out, but we'll have him on.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next.
Dark things with the how they do the missing person thing.
Yeah, we'll have his voice.
Yeah, exactly. Get him one of those.
All right, next batch. Here we go. Okay. This batch is consensus rank 43 to 68. We start with Julian Alvarez. We go to Raheem Sterling at 48, Enciso at 51, Pedro at 52. Interesting how they're right next to each other. Willian, at 59. This was obviously before we had that news. Moussa Diaby at 61, Nicholas Jackson at 62, Noni Madueke at 64, Richarlison 66, Havertz 67, and Antony at 68. There are going to be a lot of differing opinions here. I know for a fact because several of you don't care for some of these players and others of you really like certain of these players. So I'm just, it's going to be really curious. Like, for example, if you look at Gavin's ranking of Raheem Sterling, 72, whereas Robbie has him at 30. So this is where it really starts to get interesting in terms of hitting on a forward that you think is actually going to play, is going to have a good season, is going to deliver on fantasy points. This is more of a minefield, definitely, than we've had so far in the forward pool.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting one to start with, to start our discussions with, is that the scenario that you started our forward rankings pod with, there is a chance for those drafting at 10, 11, and 12 that one of these guys is going to be their forward one.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
All right. Very quickly, before we move on past that, Totti, since you posed that question, which of these would you be comfortable with as your forward one? None of them, obviously, but you have to pick one.
Honestly, I know it sounds strange, but if you're drafting, like, obviously this is a huge caveat, but if you get any confirmation of Kane going, then Richarlison.
Yeah.
I think out of this lot, Richarlison is the most nailed on once Kane leaves.
I disagree, but go ahead.
For you, who is?
I think it's Diaby. I think he's the only one that has a 100% nailed on starter. I mean, I'm taking Antony out of this for obvious reasons. Sterling probably at least starts the season nailed on, just for dearth of options and his price tag and everything else. But I think Diaby also starts and is nailed on, and I can't see him losing that spot to Leon Bailey.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is Leon Bailey now locked up in a cellar somewhere?
That's the injury table.
He's a sub, and that's where he should be.
Yeah. Whether or not you think he's gonna, the system allows for him to be a top 10 forward is another question. But in terms of being nailed on, and this is this list, as we recognize, is riddled with playing time issues. And I think Diaby, if you're just answering that, is the one that's probably the most nailed on, in addition to probably Sterling.
I might be with you on that.
My question is, assuming you're drafting at the end of the order, 10, 11, 12, you've missed out, as we are, yes. You've missed out on Rashford, and Son, most likely. You've decided you don't want to reach for Nkunku or Jesus in round 2, and no one's come back to round 3. So you pick your highest ranked player in round 3, and you're looking at your round 4 spot, and you're itching for a forward because you have either 2 midfielders and a defender, or 3 midfielders at that point. Are you going to go for a Diaby or a Richarlison or an Antony? And I think those, maybe let's take Richarlison out of the conversation. As long as Kane's there, he has no value or very little value. So I think Antony and Diaby are of similar meaning that they have the most chance of minutes out of this lot, but probably the least explosiveness or expected explosiveness. Are you going to say, I need a forward I can play every week, even if he is shit, or he may be shit? Or are you going to lean into your draft and say, I haven't I've missed tier 1 forwards. I've missed tier 2 forwards. I've missed tier 3 forwards. Why not stream forwards?
Or
and then
you
go for ceiling, and go for someone like Enciso. Go for someone
Alvarez.
like Joao Pedro. Go for Alvarez. He's the poster child for ceiling forward. Go for Alvarez. Go for Nico Jackson. Forwards that could bang, but could leave you without playable assets.
I love Alvarez this year. For what
I think
it's worth.
if you're in that position for the 4th round, you either take Alvarez or you wait for the 5th. In which case, you can take 2 of these guys back to back, 5th, 6th.
These guys?
But they might not be back.
No. The only one of these guys you're getting in the 5th is maybe.
Pedro. There's a chance you can get Diaby. If Nicholas, I'm not taking Nicholas Jackson until at least the 8th.
He was gone in the 4th today.
That's absurd.
And,
Chelsea's gonna buy an actual forward before the window is closed.
Diaby was gone in the 4th as well. Kai Havertz was gone in the 5th. Madueke I think is still available. And Anthony you can get later. But Enciso was gone. Pedro was gone by the 5th. Diaby is gone. Jackson's gone. Sterling's gone. Alvarez is gone.
Enciso's gone before the 5th?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then, yeah, in which case I stream then. That's just absurd. That means there's some real good value left.
Diaby's ADP currently is 57. Right. Diaby's ADP.
So that puts you... Yeah, right before the end of the 5th, or beginning of the 5th.
Yeah, to be fair, Enciso's is 77, but
yeah, exactly. How is he going before the?
Because
we went 4-3 in my community league. 4-3 in my community league. Let's see. Joao Pedro went 5-12, so he was there in the 5th. You're right. Joao Pedro was 5-12. Enciso is 6-1.
That's one of the Brighton
I've always
guys
seen Pedro go before Enciso.
I think it's just that we are in leagues that are too good.
Very competitive.
But some of those other picks you've talked about, Joe, in that same draft there's been a lot of value around. It's just
for sure
that Enciso goes that early. I don't think he'll go that early in any other draft. So there's always aberrations like that.
So okay, hold on.
Casemiro has an ADP of 63. Declan Rice has an ADP of 51. Those guys aren't going in any of our competitive leagues.
Yeah.
They aren't going there. Kai Havertz has an ADP of 44. Luke Shaw 35.
Well, we should mention. I mean, this is the point I think we should talk about. There's like a forward frenzy this year that is resulting from the exact kind of conundrum that you guys are referring to, that managers find themselves in. And for that reason, the value you're referring to in my draft, Ryan, was in both of my drafts, was at the midfield position. I ended up getting guys like Gibbs White and Gross who fell, McNeil who fell, because people were reaching for forwards. So again,
we're talking about the midfielders. That's why I said that big tranche allows you to get better value later on, which is why you basically need to take a forward in the first 2 picks.
Exactly. And I still believe that's true.
Yeah. But Totti and I got that get out of jail free card. So
yeah, you guys are lucky. I mean, you planned well. You're not lucky.
Well, we're good.
You did a good thing.
Yeah, when we get to that pick and all of our forward targets are gone, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Benji asking, how often does Alvarez play with Haaland after the Mahrez departure? I think it's more than people think.
He's played with Haaland several times last season.
I know, but I think this season it's going to be even more than that.
I agree.
Yeah. That's what I say. I think you take, in that scenario, you take Alvarez or you wait in the 4th. I agree with you. I don't want to reach for any of these other guys that early in the 4th, to be honest. And plus, Alvarez by himself is going to be maddening to roster, despite him probably getting more opportunities this season.
Yeah, I mean, because early in the fourth, you can still get guys, depending on your league, you can still get guys like Olise, you can still get guys like Paqueta, you can still get, any of like the attacking fullbacks, Estupinian, Porro, Chilwell. All these guys are still there in the fourth, and I'm with you. I think I would just rather go there.
Agreed.
Cool. All right. Anything else on this batch before we get to the real dart throws?
Probably Willian is too high, but I think that's the adjustment during our ranking period that we got the info that he's agreed personal terms with one of the Saudi clubs. I refuse to remember which one is which, and so he's close to being a do not draft, just like Mitrovic.
Agreed. All right, cool. Totti, do you want to give your elevator pitch for Nonu Madueke? You're the highest on him.
I could. I think he. Well, I don't think that is the truth. He's the only natural right winger in the squad. Sterling was given a chance during the preseason, mostly because Madueke's injury and because he will have better chance of minutes at right wing. I'm not saying that Madueke is nailed. I think he's an exciting young prospect. We have seen flashes of brilliance from him last season. We know he can score Fantrax points based on last season. And I think seeing the form Sterling is in and seeing how his only way to minutes is in an unnatural position at right wing for Sterling, then I think Madueke, even though I'm probably with Ryan that Sterling is playing in game week 1. He's starting in game week 1, but I think it won't be long before Madueke takes that spot and makes it his own.
Okay. Cool.
Pitch over.
No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, and as much as my rankings and Ryan certainly don't necessarily agree, I'm really worried about Olise. I think he might come in, and I'm also just worried about Sterling just because of name value and I don't know, just how much the player costs. It's so difficult to get past those things. But are you really benching him?
Is Pochettino gonna say, here's Sterling, I need to start him because he's Raheem Sterling? I doubt that.
I think he'll have to give him an opportunity. Persevering with him, if he's clearly struggling, that's, I think, a different story.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, if ranks are your perceived value for the player kind of season long, like, would you be willing to take a gamble and just let Madueke slip, and then potentially that manager gets frustrated and drops him 4 weeks in?
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of where I think I am. I don't know if I'll draft him, but I'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah. Okay. So that's this batch. They're a little bit yucky. They're a little bit okay, depending on who they are. I think, Totti, do you like Diaby? Sorry, Ryan was talking about him. I couldn't ever figure out whether or not you were in on him also as like a nailed week in and week out.
I just am a bit anxious about the whole of Villa. I think the pragmatism of Emery will have them winning. I think they will be a solid team, but I worry about their fantasy value, and I think it's mostly based on Ryan's team preview of Aston Villa.
This is your fault, Ryan.
Famous last words.
And here is the elevator pitch to you still have time to read the team previews.
Yeah.
Even if you have drafted, they still hold a lot of worth. We've done We have spent an ungodly amount of time on them. They are very well researched. They have a lot of look back on last year, projections, looking ahead of this year, question marks, players to watch, players to avoid, a lot of value. So even if you have done your draft and you're already tinkering to game week 1, take the weekend, read all the 20 previews. You will be wiser after it.
Absolutely, especially for the promoted teams, I will say, because after doing the Luton one, I know so much more than I ever could have known coming into this, and you have to educate yourself to be able to write the thing. And I feel like, I don't know if it was time well spent, but I do feel like I'm definitely more prepared. It was time spent.
It was definitely time that transpired.
I'm much more prepared to know about Luton things. Okay.
Yeah,
Final group. Here we go. Okay. At least final group that we're going to talk about today. Callum Wilson, 72 overall. Rasmus Højlund, 73. Dango Ouattara, 75. Solanke, 77. Tony, 87. Ferguson, 92. Dan Juma, 94. Brennan Johnson, 96. Calvert-Lewin, 99. McBurney, 104. Benson Manuel, 107. Pedro Neto, 117. Carlton Morris, 121. Taiwo Awoniyi, 125. Again, this goes from 72 to 125 in our consensus ranks. The reason is because the range of outcomes for these guys are all over the map. So I guess let's stick to kind of the guys we like here, unless you want to point out a particular one that you really, really don't like and you want to fade him hard.
I think we want to mention Rasmus Højlund here. Not that we want to fade him, but there is absolutely zero chance that he survives until even the highest of our consensus ranks. He's a top 6 team, potentially starting forward. The reason I think we have him lower is because we believe that he won't be a nailed-on starter, especially not right at the beginning. And he's unproven, he's young, he is not that prolific. So that's why I think we are fading him. But with this ranking, I think there's no chance he makes round 5 even.
No, he'll be gone long before. And I think I'm okay with that for me.
I mean, in leagues that we are in, we are okay with that. In leagues that we are advising our listeners that are in, maybe they should be okay with others taking him.
Right. I like it. Okay. Ryan, any guys you want to point out here?
Other than the obvious. Dango. I do like Dango. He's one of the crop of Bournemouth attackers that I just think one or two of these guys are really going to break through. And I really like his game, and I think it probably fits well into the philosophy of Iraola of just bombing down the wings. So I think he has an opportunity to become a potential solid forward too. Not saying it's going to happen, but I think he has the potential to break out. Ferguson's going to be really tough. I mean, he's 100% going to be rotated. He's showed himself to be fairly goal dependent. God, it's just going to be maddening to roster Brighton assets. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Apologies. Part 2. Anybody else? Neto's a nice round 9, round 10. If you want to go for it, I think he'll be the starting left winger just by process of elimination. I don't think he'll reach the lofty heights of but I think he has a possibility of being a decent forward 3 that you can pick up late. of this group. And then McBurney, as we know, is aerials for days. Does he get enough reps to warrant round 11 through 13 pick? Is up for debate. But who did the Sheffield preview? Is it Robbie or Gavin?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
What's your take on McBee?
I like him. Obviously, he is a legend of the Fantrax game. He was being shuffled around during the mid-season, and other players, including one
Brewster?
Rian Brewster.
Yes, let's go.
Was tried.
You have to draft him, Joe.
in that number 9 spot, but nobody sticked. So it was Ollie McBurney all the way through. On
Where
one
did
hand,
Jai set up? I mean, obviously he's gone, but I'm just wondering, like,
it was at number 10.
Okay.
So
what was the formation?
It was 5-3-2.
Okay.
5-3-2, and they had at the end of the season they had 2 City loanies orchestrating the midfield, and the 2 wing backs running down the wing. It really is. I don't want to be disrespectful, and you should listen to the Inside Tracks Sheffield United edition, because Sanji has a very, very good guest on.
James
for Sheffield.
Hanwell.
James
He was
Hanwell.
fantastic.
Yep. He was fantastic, and you should listen to that. But yeah, I'm not excited about Sheffield United's prospects in the Premier League, and I think the lack of business that they're doing is indicative of their plans to already start planning for next season in the Championship. Interestingly, and this is a very aside, they were in so much trouble at the beginning of the season that at some point during the season they missed an amount of transfer installments, that they got a transfer ban during the season, which was lifted by the end of the season. But they were in a lot of trouble, and getting promoted obviously balances the books very well. But with Ndiaye gone, I'm less and less excited. Obviously, it means that McBurney is even more nailed than he was.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're looking at, and he's good in our game, so he will be a very good forward 3. You plug him in, he gets 6 to 8 aerials every game, but he won't get a lot of goals or a lot of attacking returns.
Same old McBee.
Decent floor.
Love it.
Exactly.
To be fair, I'm expecting a similar thing from Carlton Morris. Like you describe. I mean, he's a towering fellow, and he gets a ton of aerials. He actually does some defensive work as well. For a forward, you'd be surprised to see his like tackle numbers and things like that. So I think he will have a decent floor even when he's not scoring goals, which won't probably be a ton for a Luton forward. But yeah, I mean, he's decent. He's halfway decent, and I think in the very end of the draft, you might as well. It's going to have a decent points floor.
Yeah, and I think we can circle back to our problems at the end of the order. And if you are going the route of Alvarez, Joe Pedro, high upside streamers, then getting an Ollie McBurney in round 11 will anchor your forward line, meaning that he's a nailed-on starter. He is going to get you 6-7 points every game, which won't win you a game week, but will at least have non-zero points from real forwards if neither of your lottery tickets that you selected as your forward 1 and 2 make it to the starting lineup.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think, and we never talk about him, but I think there is a similar case for Taiwo Awoniyi. He was on fire at the end of the last season, and I think his end of season form is somewhat the reason for us not actively looking to sign new forwards. He's not going to light the world on fire, but like round 15 for a starting forward, you can do much worse.
Yeah, I suppose. And yeah, I mean, he was.
And you can drop him if he
You're
doesn't
right.
perform.
He was amazing at the end of the season. Before that, it was tough days. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're looking at streamers. It's 15,
Sure.
16, 14, 15, 16.
Of course, yeah. Any of these guys have the chance to finish in the top 30 overall at the end of the season?
I think Dango and Danjuma have the best chance.
Okay. Ryan?
I'm probably with that.
Nobody's mentioned DCL's name yet.
There is very
Or
good reason
will
for that. Robbie should make an effort to stay up so that he can praise.
He should be here to defend himself. Yeah. He's ranked him at 75. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I just
You don't hate anyone, Joe, here at the key.
Yeah.
You're the youngling son of the group.
No. I mean, some people saying he's due for a big comeback year, and I can sort of buy into that. It just, I mean,
Could have said the same thing the past 5 years.
amen.
Legit.
Exactly. That's the thing.
One of these times it could be, but
it won't.
it won't.
It won't. It won't. Tom says maybe Evan Ferguson, and I actually completely disagree with that. I think that Evan Ferguson is going to be super frustrating to roster. And I love you, Tom, but yeah, I'm actually, if you want to ask me about one of my deep sleepers, I would take Welbeck at the very end of the draft, and I would start him week 1 against Luton, and I think he's going to be pretty good, actually. I think he's going to have a nice
bad shot.
I think he's
That's
going to have a nice
shout. That's a very good shout. And but I do like Ryan and myself have Ferguson the highest, and I think just because of that high-powered attack and a chance of him being there and starting more than 10 or more than 15 games makes him a viable option if you're drafting
Good
him
cover
late.
for one of your other
That
high
could-
upside in Ciso,
Exactly.
Pedro.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay, good cover. Like a player who has a baseline of 4.0 points per game is a good cover. In what world?
That he's got a chance of being a starting forward. And
All right.
if you go into a Brighton game with Justin Ciso, I feel a lot better if I had Ciso and Ferguson.
Would you feel a lot better if you had McNeil and Mope? Just in case McNeil doesn't start?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's quite a
That is-
comparison.
I think Joe, isn't that the sign that we agreed on that he's being held hostage? Him drafting Mope?
That's true.
You did ask what decrepit room I was in, so
It's only a 5-hour drive, Totti. I'll get in the car now.
yeah.
Ryan just admitted he'd rather have Mope. You're right. He's either being held hostage or going through a depressive episode. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I mean that room itself is one from what's that Apple show that has Severance? It looks like a room from Severance. At least from this angle.
Okay, I think we've covered it. Let's talk briefly about a couple forwards that don't appear in the list we just looked at and why they're not there. We already had a couple. That guy.
Oh, okay.
That guy
was his his middle name or something.
No, just that guy Welbs.
Yeah. Fair enough.
To be fair, I think that's written in one word.
Is it all one word? That guy. Yeah, we had M. Andrews ask about why we didn't mention Wisa yet, so we could talk about him quickly if you guys want to. I kind of already mentioned Welbs. I think that he's going to be obviously a rotation risk, but he's one of those high upside streamers. Whenever he starts, you're going to want to grab him and start him. And then Mitro and Jimenez, if you guys want to.
Yeah, I mean, Mitro's an easy one. He was very close to going to Saudi. I suspect it still might happen. He's throwing a fit now because he didn't get his deal. So I assume he's still going to leave. If you get a good indication that's not the case, then he clearly shoots back up the board. Jimenez, I actually think he should be probably a little higher. I think he has a better chance of this renaissance than someone like DCL is. Obviously, Fulham sees something in him. Maybe a change of sceneries will be good for him. He'll have some decent supply coming in from Pereira and probably Wilson and a few others. So I don't mind Jimenez as a later forward punt. And yeah, he made a good argument about Welbs. Visa, I'm not excited in the slightest about him.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to say why that is? Just generally.
I mean, I don't have the depressing numbers in front of me, but.
Well, Fantrax projections, if you want, I can give you Fantrax projections. They're projecting him for 246.5 points with a points per game of 10.27.
To be fair, that's pretty low for Fantrax projections. That puts him square in the 200 mark.
Right. Let me actually, you guys discuss. Totti, give us your take on Wisa, and I'm going to go ahead and go over to our website where I can get his points per start, because that's kind of the important number that we're looking for.
Sure, I'll go. I'll talk about Wisa. I think Wisa has been very good in the absence of Tony in the last few games of last season, but I think he only gets into the team in the 4-3-3 set. An interesting fact about Brentford is that they were one of those teams that masterfully changed about their two tactics. So they had 17 games playing 5-2-3 and 5-3-2. Sorry, 5-3-2, and 21 games playing 4-3-3. Obviously, there were some changes mid-game or at the end of the game with substitutions, but those are the starting formations split for Brentford. I can see Wisa starting as the point in a 4-3-3, and they will start in a 4-3-3 in games that they expect to dominate or expect to play on the front foot. But they will start in the 5-3-2 in games that they are expected to defend more. That said, there is a chance, and Wisa has started in a front two with Mbomo, but the pragmatism of the Brentford style means that I think they will try to get the most out of Schade and try to get the most out of the hype around him. He's a very exciting young German prospect. He has just had his first call-up to the German national team at the end of the season, despite a questionable end to last season on Brentford. And they will want to ride that. They will want to elevate his value, and they can only do that when they play him. So I think Schade will be the left-sided center forward in a front two attack with Mbomo, and I think he will be the left winger in a 4-3-3. So there is a good shot that there's a good chance that Wisa starts in a 4-3-3 up front. But even then, I can see Shadow starting as the shadow striker or a false 9, and Luis Potter starting on the left wing in a 4-3-3. So I'm not wholly excited by Wisa, but if he starts, he's a good streamer.
He can be a good streamer, I think. I agree. I think it depends on the opposition a little bit. He is famous for, because Benji's mentioning his goals. He's famous for being one of those players that comes off the bench to score a goal. And so whenever you look at those numbers, you need to make sure that you're looking at like points per start rather than just overall type of things, because he has a lot of contributions as a sub that we need to actually take off, because there's no way you're ever starting him as a sub, or any player really for that matter, with the exception of maybe a couple. So last season he had 16 starts. In his starts he had 7.5 points per game. In those 7.5 points per game, his ghost points per start were 3.8, which is pretty terrible. So that's a pretty.
That's why we haven't ranked him.
Right, there it is. And that's a pretty good indication that if he does nothing in the match, I mean, if he doesn't score a goal, you're basically going to be blanking that match. And so he's super boomer bust, and that's just kind of the reason why it's not my cup of tea. But yeah, that's him. Let's see. That about does it. The latest on Mitro, because I was looking for earlier just to see if he's worth drafting late or not. He said to family and friends that he will never again play for Fulham. That being said, he is at training. So
playing a training.
Right.
Competitive game. An official.
Right. So I don't know. Do with that what you will. There's a chance he goes to another Premier League team, I suppose. But it just doesn't. It's not a good situation. Doesn't look good. But maybe worth a gamble late. Who knows? All right, boys. Let's talk about some late round gems, and then we'll close this down. Listeners, if you've been here the whole time, you are incredible. You are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. And people who are still chatting us after this long, God, we love you guys. Anyway, let's talk some late round gems, and we'll close it down. So as far as forwards are concerned, who are you guys targeting in the mid to late, and then who are you targeting extra late?
Ryan could start this one.
The mid to late, I think Dango, Danjuma, Neto. Depends if the Kane rumors are still not settled, then Richarlison might dip fairly low. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then after that, really, you got a good shot with Welbs. But yeah, McBurney.
Yeah, I was going to say you mentioned McBurney. I like that. I mean, Welbs is going to be my super late because you don't have to wait till, you don't have to take him 9 to 12. You can wait till later than that.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, I got mostly defenders late.
Okay, sorry. I'll go. I think Ryan covered my my 9 to 12. I'll go 13 to 16. I'll go. I don't think we mentioned Nketiah. Maybe that was for.
I was just
sure.
looking at taking him.
We talked about Jesus' injury. I think we all agree that Nketiah comes in. So obviously he's a late round punt, short term, very short term. But my real late round punt is Jordan Ayew against Sheffield United.
Oh, you love you some Jordan Ayew.
I love me some Jordan Ayew. And that is very much a one game punt. But what do you know? At the end, round 15, 16, 14, 15, 16, you are going for one round punts and or one game punts. And I think at this point, there aren't many players on Crystal Palace. Period. And Jordan Ayew will be nailed.
Oh, 100%.
He wasn't really good, but he was okay in the Roy Renaissance or Roy Renaissance at the end of the season.
Renaissance.
Roy Renaissance, yes, that's the one. So yeah, I think he's my late round punt for game week 1.
Nice. I like it. All right, cool. Anything else to add for forwards? I will say that, Totti, you reminded me to have listeners/viewers go look at the fixture difficulty tracker on the Draft Society, because Totti is a huge proponent of drafting for early fixtures and playing players who are going to start off strong. They become trade pieces, and or they just win you weeks. So check it out if you are, especially late in drafts, if you are looking at matchups where you don't quite know what to do. Like, for example, which defenders have the best early season fixture run? It's Brighton, and most of them are not being drafted. So check it out. It's worth doing. It's a little just kind of exercise to kind of walk yourself through, to think about early season fixtures and how you could take advantage of those to actually win your matchups and maybe create some good trade pieces for yourself. Aside from that, guys, anything else? Otherwise, give us a sign off.
Ryan.
Good night and good luck.
There it is.
Classic.
I'm fine, by the way.
Yeah. Good luck with your drafts. Sign up to the Draft Society and read our articles, even if you've already drafted.
Hit us up if you have questions. DM us. Send some trade advice questions through our website if you want to do that. We're always around to help you out. All right. Zaha. No, Benji. No. Anyway, all right. We're going to close her down. It's been a long one. Thanks to everybody. Listeners on the podcast, make sure you listen to the other episode, whichever one you listen to. Scroll back and listen to the other one to make sure you get both of them under your belt. And then obviously go back and listen to the Defender one, which is on YouTube and on Spotify as well. This has been the KPC. We will be back with a little bit more preseason information / analysis. But then obviously we'll be hitting you every week during the season, every game week, to try to get you prepped and ready for waiver wire pickups, for trades, for just general kind of player analysis, player performance, all those things during the season. So if this is your first time listening, don't give up on us. Come on back. We'll be here for you all season. All right. Cheers, everybody. Have a great draft. Talk to everyone soon.
Goodbye.